ITV, certainly the best.
Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to TMI this morning on ITV, on the ITV network, where we get to delve into the twists, turns, the ups and the downs of the national topical issues that are shaping our political space and our current space right here in Nigeria and even globally. We get to ask the critical questions and give the answers that are necessary right here on the program. I am Chukufumnanya Digwe, and I'll be right here in our Benin Network Center. As you know, we do this across 3 network centers, Benin here, Lagos, and Abuja. We get to have a very robust conversation on the issues that are shaping our national discourse. I'm not alone this morning. I'm doing this with the very insightful Harry Aibuji. A very wonderful morning to you, Harry.
Good morning, eloquent Fifi. I hope I'm permitted to call you
Yes,
that.
you are.
All right, good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, everyone. It's always a pleasure to be on this network, the TMI network. And of course, just like you did say, we have a whole lot to, beam our searchlight on this morning. A lot is happening in our nation, and just like the adage says, only someone whose head is not in the right place would go to sleep with his house on fire. So, I think every sane Nigerian should be concerned about what is going on in our country today, especially, as regards security and the rest of them. So, yeah, I think there's a whole lot to talk about today.
Definitely, there is a whole lot to talk about, and we are going to delve into it on the program this morning. On the top of the list happens to be the electoral amendment bill, that's been shaking the social space right here in Nigeria. Everybody's talking about it.
Because it's so much buzz.
Yeah, exactly. And, from... first of all, the Senate exempting the real-time transmission phrase from the bill to the Occupy NAS, it's been a whole lot. And now, them coming out to say real-time transmission, but there is still a but.
A clause.
Yeah, a clause.
Yeah.
So, there's all of this trending on, the current affairs fair in Nigeria.
Yes. I mean, within the few couple of days that have passed, a whole lot has happened as regards that. First, it was the rejection of the bill, and then the protest, the attendant protest that followed. A whole lot of people took to the streets in Abuja, especially, at the National Assembly complex, demanding for a review of that clause. Okay, now we heard that they went into an emergency plenary session and they're out with some resolutions. And I think chief of such resolution is that, okay, yes, it's okay to have an electronic transmission of results, but with a bot, just like you've said, right? And the bot there, I think the major clause is that where network fails, then we can revert, to manual transmission. But that in itself has been generating a lot of, controversy, because people have been raising questions and, bringing up issues like, okay, is it that we can't rely solely on electronic transmission? Is it that we can't depend on is it that we don't have what it takes, to do things digitally without reverting to manual? Because I think Nigeria has come to a point where we should be able to, there are certain countries, I think I was going through, was it TikTok a couple of days ago, and I saw that there's a country where there is free Wi-Fi across board. So whatever part of the country in which you are, you can have access to, Wi-Fi. So I don't think it's something that we can't achieve in this country, even if not, across board, not in the 36 states of the Federation, but in certain parts of especially in matters of this nature, sensitive matters of this nature. I don't think it's too much to be able to transmit results digitally.
All right, we'll get to talk some more about that this morning on the program. There's something else that has caught my attention, and I would say has caught the attention of a whole lot of Nigerians out there. The security situation in Nigeria. Yes, time and time again, recurrently, we've heard of, attacks. We've heard of compromising situations that Nigerians have found themselves in. And in recent times, we've seen the U.S. intervening, or as some quarter of Nigerians would say, interfering. But anyway, they have been weighing in on the issues recently. I think January 1st was the first strike in Sokoto. That was the first, apart from all of the bantering from the U.S. president, right? That was the first action that the U.S. took. And now there's a bill. There's a bill out there to sanction a group, a body, bodies, I would say. Yeah. You have the Fulani, cattle herders, Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association. Yeah. You have also, a whole lot of people. Yeah. And then you have one specific person, Kwankwaso. What do you think about this? We have 5 U.S. lawmakers with this bill to sanction these bodies and Kwankwaso. What's your take on this?
It's a pretty interesting one, because when the U.S., I think when Donald Trump first raised an eyebrow, and of course when that first U.S. lawmaker drew attention to the activities in Nigeria, some persons were saying, oh, okay, just like you said, it's between the school of thought of those that believe that it's an intervention, and of course those that think it's an interference, so to speak. Well, either way, at some point, if we can't put our house in order, it's only proper that concerned bodies, concerned nations, concerned individuals, step in to help us put things, in the right place. Okay. Right now, it's no news that a lot of persons are being wasted in Nigeria, and it's not funny anymore. Now, the most interesting part of this, first off, I'm not even surprised that the Miyetti Allah and all the other, groups are under the radar of the U.S. But the interesting part is the involvement of a politician, and not just a politician, a high-profile one for that matter.
And one that is very actively involved in the upcoming 2027 elections.
So the big question here is, how does all of this pan out at the end of the day? What impact is this going to have on his political ambition? And what does this even say about him as someone who occupies a very key position in this country, someone who has occupied a key position before and who is also vying for a more serious position? So these questions are actually begging for answers, and we're hoping that somehow we'll be able to figure out the answers.
I guess Nigerians are constantly begging for answers from our the people in the helms of affairs in the country. Well, just to clarify, this story, which we just looked into a little bit, is that 5 United States lawmakers have introduced a bill to the U.S. Congress seeking to impose sanctions on former Kano State Governor Rabiu Kwankwaso, the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN, and Miyetti Allah Kautal for alleged violations of religious freedoms. So yes, we'll get to talk some more about that as we go on in the program. Yes, I have my colleague in our Abuja Network Center, and also I have the beautiful Mercelina in our Lagos Network Center standing by. Let's start from Tolu in our Abuja Network Center. Wonderful morning to you. How is it this Thursday morning for you, Tolu?
Yeah, wonderful morning to you. The weather is quite clement at the top of the hill right here in Papi in Abuja. And I also listened to your discussion this morning, taking a look at a series of events happening in the past few days right there. But from the Abuja Network, surely we're talking about opportunities that are available for so many people to study abroad, looking at a global education, and also with the future of work, a lot of discussions about the kind of education our kids need to have to make them employable in any part of the world. Knowing that living in a world now means people can work for a top-rated companies outside the shores of this country, from the corner of their home. People are doing remote work and so many things, and that's why the future of work is important. Also, with the advent of AI, there's so much to be done, and the creativity coming in young people. So we'll be taking that with some group of people from the United States who came into the country, and we'll be talking about the opportunities available for people who want to study abroad. This is what we're at from the Abuja Network Studio.
All right, thank you so much, Tolu, for your insights on what you'll be having for us today from the Abuja Network Center. We're really curious and we hope to see more later on. Now over to you, Mercelina Onko. Tell me, how's Lagos this morning and what do you have for us?
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Tolu. Lagos is good. Lagos is beautiful. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. Okay, from Lagos, we saw recently that the U.S., they have decided to send 200 troops to Nigeria for military training support. You know, concerning the issue of insecurity, we've been seeing couple of videos on the internet of kidnapping and all of that for some time now, and the U.S. has decided, I mean, they've intervened already, but at this time they've decided to send 200 troops to Nigeria for military training. I mean, this might help, we do not know yet. So basically today we are looking at the U.S.-Nigerian security collaboration, a new era or a cause for concern. So we would be having a political analyst that would help us talk about it today.
All right, thank you so much, Mercy, for your insights right there. Just to remind you, you're still on to TMI on the ITV network. We have a whole lot in store for you. Don't go anywhere. We'll take an intermission now, after which TMI returns. Don't go away.
Some days, there comes the Ugemobo Festival, which the Oba celebrates outside the palace gate. A pavilion is built of red cloth where rites are performed to drive away all evil spirits still unsatisfied by the year's sacrifices. The Mobo Festival is to commemorate an event in Benin history which dates back to 1504 AD. The Oba of Benin added a colorful mood to the year's celebration as he walks round the city center amidst cheers.
Welcome back to TMI on the ITV network, and now is for another leg of the program where we get to take a holistic look into the headlines of our national dailies. It's the newspaper review segment, and to start off we'll begin with Daily Sun. One headline there says, "Trouble for Miyetti Allah as U.S. Congress pushes for terror organization tag." That story is on page 6, and we did happen to delve into it just a little bit. Okay, another story there. Headlines, North under siege, and that's said by ACF. Laments rising kidnapping, killings, terrorism in the region. Also on Daily Sun, a subrider says, bomb scare at Bayelsa Secretariat. Police arrest one suspect. You get to read all about that story on page 4. Moving on, Senate principal officers, Wanyeboyim, hunger clash, disrupts works budget defense session. That's on page 8. Also, drama as Abure's Labour Party camp dislodges Usman Group from Secretariat. It goes on to say, police have arrested hoodlums who burgled our office, and that's said by Usman. Another headline there says, Dixon urges harmonization committee to adopt REP's version of Electoral Act amendment. Now that's on page 26. All of those stories are on Daily Sun, and if you want to read all about it, you get to grab yourself a copy. Over to you now, Harry.
All right, still on the paper review. This right here is the Nation newspaper, and the major headline right here says, alleged religious violation. Kwankwaso faces U.S. sanctions. Alleged religious violation. Kwankwaso faces U.S. sanctions, just like we were conversing about a moment ago. And then the writer there says, ex-governor Macban, others on offenders list in U.S. lawmakers bill. Ex-governor Macban, others on offenders list in U.S. lawmakers bill. Well, I guess it's safe to say there's fire on the mountain. And then still on the Nation newspaper, Lagos inaugurates team to propagate Tinubu's achievements. Lagos inaugurates team to propagate Tinubu's achievements. What achievements are we talking about? Well, grab yourself a copy.
That's your standpoint, asking that question. There are people that can itemize it for you.
It's actually a rhetorical question. I mean,
well, you go on.
All right, so still on the Nation newspaper, this one says, Dangote refinery attains full restoration. Optimization of crude distillation units, CDU. Dangote refinery attains full restoration. Optimization of crude distillation unit, CDU. That sounds like a bit of good news, and that's something you will find on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Okay, I guess that's it on the Nation newspaper. Let's take a look at the next one.
Well, the next one happens to be Nigerian Tribune. One of the major headlines there is on the Electoral Act. More groups kick over Senate stance. Bagaje, Utomi, Waba, Yerima, others flay decision. Dixon, the Kuka Center, Yaga Africa, tell NAS Conference Committee to adopt REP's version. Fixed Politics Africa wants Senate to rescind unpopular clause. That's on page 4, and it happens to be or form the crux of our conversation right here in our Benin Network Center.
In all honesty, I actually saw that coming. I knew groups are going to push against that clause because it is, for me, the most controversial part of all of this.
One thing I do see is that there's always these groups coming out, you know, to talk.
Yeah.
But do they really listen?
Well, it's one thing to talk, it's another thing to listen, like you said. But again, it would have been way worse if nobody was saying anything. Something
that's been commendable, I would say is commendable in recent times, is the fact that I don't know if per se it was the Occupy NAS protest that brought about the Senate's position in recent times. But I felt like it gave a push, you know, and it's encouraging to find that the youth still have a voice. And you know, a big shout out to all of the guys that came out to, you know, do the Occupy NAS protest.
But you see, one thing is clear. If, evil thrives when good men do nothing.
Okay.
You understand? So as
Yes.
long as we, sit back and observe, nothing is ever going to change. And that's one thing that we can't rule out. Okay?
One thing is for us to come out, and one thing is for those voices to be muffled or stifled.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, we've seen protests in previous times
Let's
where...
not even go too far. The NSAS protest.
Thank you. Where, protesters and the voice of Nigerians or the voice of the youth are stifled. But for the first time, or for a recent time, I would say, and for a commendable time, we've seen that, the voice yielded something.
Yeah, results.
Yeah, and it's really commendable. So, let's go on to our newspaper reviews and look at more headlines on the Nigerian Tribune. More on Nigerian Tribune goes on to say, CBN approves BDC's return to forex markets, allows purchase of up to $150,000 weekly. That's on business. And you get to read all about it on page 7 of Nigerian Tribune. Moving on, Nigeria's total capital importation hit $21 billion in 2025. Oduwole, Minister of Trade, propounds this, and that's on page 6. Also on the business scene, in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, Dangote Refinery's crude distillation unit, motor spirit block, hit 650,000 billion barrels per day capacity. That story is on page 7. Moving on, drama as Nwebonyi, hunger trade word as committee sitting, That's on page 4. It goes on to say, Works Minister laments poor funding. More on Nigerian Tribune is on the Electoral Act. More groups kick over Senate stance. Bugaje, Utomi, Waba, Yerima, others flay decision. Dixon, the Kuka Center, IAGA Africa, tells NAS Conference Committee to adopt REP's version. Fix Politics Africa wants Senate to assign unpopular clause, and that's on page 4. Now let's move on to our next point of call.
All right, this right here is the Vanguard newspaper. And on the Vanguard newspaper, the major headline here says, U.S. reps propose visa ban on Kwankwaso, Mietiala, others. U.S. reps propose visa ban on Kwankwaso, Mietiala, and others. And then the rider to that says, as U.S. lawmakers present bill on Christian religious persecution in Nigeria. As U.S. lawmakers present bill on Christian religious persecution in Nigeria. Seek terrorist designation for Fulani militants. Seek terrorist designation for Fulani militants, militias rather, not militants. We are shocked. We'll respond at appropriate time, and that's credited to Kwankwasia movement. Kwankwaso caught in web of international hypocrisy and blackmail, and that's coming from the NNPP. Okay, still on Vanguard newspaper, kidnappers abduct police officer, 4 others in Edo. You'll find that on page 4. And then this other one says, Dangote Refinery hits 650,000 PBD capacity. And then that's you will find on page 19, and on page 21, this says, Makoko demolitions. Fate of 1,000 school children hangs in the balance. Fate of 1,000 school children hangs in the balance. And then, still on the Vanguard newspaper, Senate demands full implementation of defense budgets, once against delays. You find that on page 9. Senate demands full implementation of defense budget, once against delays. And then finally on the Vanguard newspaper, Umahi vows to resign if Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Road project fails quality test. Now that sounds like a confident one. Umahi vows to resign if Abuja-Kaduna-Kano Road project fails quality test. Well, I don't know. What's your take on that? That sounds like a confident man. Imagine saying, if this road project fails, then I'm out.
Aren't they always giving us?
But don't you think, in all fairness to them, we should give them, the benefit of the doubt?
The other day, the EFCC chairman said something like that as regards the indictment of Yahaya Bello. Where are we now on that one? Okay. Well, it's not a novel idea when it comes to...
Change is the only constant in life, remember?
Oh, please. Oh, please. I have to say, well, you're still watching TMI on the ITV network. We'll take an intermission now, after which we'll be discussing one of the most consequential conversations in the Nigerian national space right now, the Electoral Amendment Bill. We'll talk all about it. We have very insightful guests to weigh in on this conversation. Join us again.